Welcome, my fellow patriots, to Fired Up Conservative Talk. I am your conservative Latino, William Del Pilar. And today we are diving into the one big, beautiful bill. Trump's massive win for tax cuts, border security, and yes, jobs. But loaded with flaws that have Democrats, media, and TDSers crying foul. I'll break down the truth, expose their lies, and show why this sets us up for 2026. Plus, a lightning round, Obama era conspiracies against Trump coming to light. CBS's media bias settlement. Trump's library is being funded by the media that hates him. Active courts failing again, and Microsoft's H-1B visa abuse. So put on your anti-flammable gear, my friends, for some scorching, hard-hitting facts, or as we used to say as kids, burned. You got burned, Democrats. But before we dive in, don't forget to bookmark grumblingsmedia.com and follow us on YouTube, Rumble, Apple, Spotify under the handle Grumblings Media. As you're watching, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and like and share the video once we're done. So let's get down to it. Positives of the big, beautiful bill. Well, first of all, tax cuts to keep your money. This bill extends Trump's 2017 tax cuts, preventing a hike. It saves families approximately $1,700 a year. That's real cash to pay bills, vacations, or put in your retirement/investment or your children's college fund where it can and will grow. There are no taxes on tips, overtime, or some car loan interests. Now, this does expire in 2028, but there are some limitations, as is normal with every tax break. It eliminates federal income tax on tips for waiters, bartenders. They can keep their full tips, which is going to change how some businesses have their in-house rules. But there's also overtime pay, factory workers, extra hours. All that will be tax-free, and that is huge. The interest on certain automobile loans, specific loans, not all loans. The details are a bit unclear in the bill. I haven't gone through that portion yet. And all this expires at the end of 2028. Reverting to taxable status. So it's temporary, but hey, it's a great talking point. Re-elected. I'm going to keep those tax cuts going. And no, it is not revenue. It is taxes. It is not revenue. Why? The Democrats state that as if the government generates its own revenue, and they say we're stealing their money. Yet it's our money. And I'm going to talk about that in a bit too. But tips must be reported income. Cash tips under 600 may face IRS scrutiny. Overtime applies to wages exceeding 40 hours a week. It varies by employer classification. Car loan interests are limited to loans meeting, again, IRS criteria, and it's not universal. I just can't see a car loan interest of somebody buying a Hummer, you know what I mean, or a Rolls Royce, but who can tell nowadays? You know, income caps may apply. High earners may be phased out, and because there are thresholds in the bill. I'm just trying to present to you the facts as they happen, as they are. Unlike others, I'm not going to present a half-truth. One thing I loathe, I got in a heated debate with my good friend and partner about half-truths and how I view a half-truth. I view half-truths as nothing but a lie because you're trying to use a half-truth to promote the narrative you want to be believed. And we all do it. Some of us just do it without realizing it, but most do it purposely. Again, all this is subject to IRS regulations, which will narrow eligibility down. And there's also a child tax credit. That's up $500 to $2,500 up through 2028. These are just some of the items in the bill that you've heard about that were indeed passed. So what's a standard deduction? Real quick, for those that may not be aware, standard deduction, which will apply to a lot of this, is a flat amount that's subtracted from your income before taxes, and it lowers your bill, i.e. your taxes. So for 2025, it's going to be $60,000 for singles, up $1,000, and $32,000 for married. That's up $2,000, and everyone gets it without listing their deductions. So that's a savings of $300 a year, which is like a universal tax coupon. All this is difficult. Our taxes are purposely, I believe, confusing. and it's very legalese because the people are always trying to find the opt out, the rich. So they could really simplify the tax code, but they don't. They don't want to, and we're the ones who pay the price. You cheat on your taxes. Oh, I didn't know that. We should have read this in the minute print there. So state tax deduction cap is up to 40,000. That's a big terrible. That's terrible in the bill. And I am one of the states that actually benefits, but it's terrible. And here's why. Well, first of all, you can deduct your state and local taxes, property, income from federal taxes, but it's capped at 40,000. But that's up 10,000 for incomes under 500,000, which is literally 99% of America. Now, this helps high tax state families like New York. A teacher deducting 30,000 is a saving of $4,000. This may sound like all gobbledygook to some. The point is life's going to become easier for you in New York, California, Vermont, high tax states. Now, why I don't like it, it keeps our state taxes high. This is why California will continue to keep upping our taxes, because they want this increase to continue. The rest of the country pays off our taxes is what happens. It shields blue states from political accountability. So without this cap, states would have to face voter pressure. We will be paying 40,000 more in taxes. And your local representative, likely a Democrat, would have to answer why. But they don't, so they won't. So don't think this is a break. I'm willing to eat a couple of cycles of higher taxes if it means better government, which in turn would mean lower taxes overall. Well, William, that's not fair. That's not right. Yeah, it is right. That is the right thing to do. Other states shouldn't be taxing or paying off for taxes, but we're the fourth economy in the world. So what? We take as much, if not more, from the government than most other states. Now, they'll lie to you and say this or that, we put in more. No, we don't. In a normal cycle, Biden would have funded the whole repair for our climate change garbage that allows these wildfires to reign free when they do happen. And they do, because they don't do their job to prevent it. So yeah, we pay, we are beneficiaries much, much more than they want to tell you. The other reason, these are congressional representatives who are Republican. There are no term limits, so they're okay with the debt to continually rise because they want to get reelected. So that means the debt's going to rise because we're paying our state taxes are being funded by the country versus the onus being put on us. And thus we look at our politicians. Why are our taxes so high? These congressional reps, I don't care if it's Isa or any Valdez or any other California Republican. They keep voting for this garbage. Why? Because they want to keep getting reelected. It's a scam letting them dodge the blame while taxpayers foot the bill. There are also Trump accounts, $1,000 tax-deferred investment for kids born 2025 through 2028. It's like a savings account. At $1,000 at 5% could be $2,700 by age 18 for future wealth. That's nothing. If you put that in the market, that could blow up. Oh my God, that could blow up to, Jesus Christ, I'm thinking just 30, 40, 50,000 if it's invested properly. I know I'm exaggerating. A good 15,000. Those are conservative numbers. Business tax breaks to boost hiring and equipment as is standard. Then there's the border security that made it through. And yes, we did vote for this. I voted for this. 80 million. What cracks me up are the people, you don't have compassion. Really? I know one person told me that he didn't care how many American jobs were lost, how many industries were wiped out because the Chinese were flooding the market with cheap solar panel to bankrupt American companies. I don't care. That's what he said. Then he turns around. How can you sit there and support this stuff for it? These poor illegals. Ah! I'm like, really? Get your penis out of your mouth, because all you're doing is supporting the men who rape the Lake and Rileys out of the world. And you don't think twice. If it happened to your kid, take a barbed wire bat. In and out. Ripping that poor child apart anally or vaginally. And then parading them around or throwing them down under a bridge, leaving them half alive to die. And then you tell me how you support this crap. Because you wouldn't. You freaking wouldn't. I voted for this, as did 80 million other people. And I think it's higher. Notice all the blue states without voter ID. They all went Kamala. Huh. All right. I digress there. Let's get back to the border security. 175 billion, about 47 billion for the border wall, 45 billion for detention centers at 100,000 capacity, 30 billion for 10,000 ICE officers. Yes, I voted for that. 5 billion for border tech, 6 billion for border patrol. They're even charging fees for $100 for asylum, $550 for work permits, $3,500 to sponsor unaccompanied kids, funds enforcement. It's ensuring taxpayers aren't paying for illegal immigration. Yes, I voted for that. The target here is 1 million deportations per year. We're at about, in my opinion, based off of Ann Coulter's brilliant. Her writing is brilliant. And then she loses it in person on interview. She acts like an idiot. But you can't argue her writing or her facts. And I'm with her when she says there's about 50 million illegals. They've been using the 10 to 12 million since Ronald Reagan back in 86. And then Biden alone let in approximately 11 to 12 million. That right there puts it at 20 some odd million. And I'm guessing another 30 million between 86 to Biden coming in. There are also defense upgrades, which I voted for. Look, I believe we need to audit the Pentagon. We need to monitor where all this money. We need to work out better deals for these weapons we're buying. But the Constitution, the defense falls under the Constitution. That's what cracks me up about some of my friends that are Democrats and MAGA and libertarians especially. No more war. Yeah, I'm with you. No more war. But when you got to swing that big stick, you swing him and you slap him around. So defense upgrades, $150 billion, $25 billion for golden domes. I briefly got in a heated encounter that lasted about 10 seconds with somebody. This dome nonsense. A dome nonsense? What the hell are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about? We have hypersonic missiles now that travel 5 times the speed of sound, that can be launched globally or from submarines off our coast. And it's untouchable by the old defenses systems we have in place. So you're damn right we need a golden dome. People just don't think. $34 billion for Navy ships. I don't know about that. $34 billion is not a lot, but drone capability, technology. I believe ships and the submarine technology that's coming with them. Ships are sitting ducks. I think our aircraft carriers are sitting ducks in many ways. Why? I was there during some of these war games, and they would set up the defense or the offense, and our defensive capabilities would have an advantage on paper because there would be limits of engagement put on our submarines. You can't have our submarines sinking every damn aircraft carrier and then trying to go get that funded. So there were limitations on the rules of engagement. So it's a bit of a charade there, and that concerns me. That's it. That's another battle for another podcast. $21 billion for ammo, $9 billion for soldier housing and healthcare. Where's the capacity to take care of the men and women who would protect us? Oh, I support our troops. Thank you for serving. Oh, you're welcome. But why are you against me getting soldier housing and healthcare? That's all you get from these losers. $21 billion for ammo. We don't have enough ammo. We don't. That's a fact. That's not up for dispute. So good for that. $1 billion for military border support. Yeah. We have to serve. We sit around half the time during peacetime. There are thousands of soldiers on duty to make sure bases look clean and nice. Send them to the border. I almost had a dream job with that. I was fighting to get that. I had my new order set up, and my command stole it from me. They ended up flying me off 6 months later because they forced me to stay at that command and took my orders away. And I got out at 6 months. I said, I'm out of here. Screw y'all. And they couldn't understand. Why don't you be a team player? Because you bleeped me after I busted my tail to get these great orders, and you took them away from me. I would have been at work by 5 o'clock in the morning. I would have been done by noon. I would have been going to college to finish that up. It was cake. I mean, you earned that. That's like the unwritten earn after working literally shift on, shift off while you're out at sea. Yeah, I was on a spook ship, so we were 12 on, 12 off many times. Okay, some of the energy and jobs with the big, beautiful bill. It cuts green energy credits. Thank God. It boosts oil and gas for lower prices. William, don't you care about the Mother Earth? Yes, I do. I care more than you because I don't spew words. I've been out there as a volunteer working overseas, understanding what the Army Civil Corps of Engineers has done throughout its history to help their world countries become better purveyors of Mother Nature. So yes, I do know. Here's what I also know. Green subsidies prop up failures like Solyndra. Anybody remember Solyndra? These cronies gave to that bigot Obama, and Obama rewarded them with the $535 million in taxpayer loans, only to collapse 2 years later. No, these green subsidies are used to reward Democrat allies. Green energy, solar and wind, it heavily relies on federal subsidies, tax credits, and grants. That's what sustained its growth. It cracks me up. All these bigots, because they only look at things one way. They're all, solar fields. Well, where do you put them? Have y'all seen solar field fires? You can't put them out. You can't put them out. We experienced a couple here where I live. They're monstrosities waiting to happen. And then they lie to you. And then the energy they save, you don't get it. SDG&E, where I live, Edison, San Diego Edison, and PG&E up north, they get all the extra energy back, then they resell it. So they're double dipping at our expense. We get squat. You get credits, William, credits. But then that's limited. It's the biggest scam here in California you can imagine. That's why I don't have solar. I'm like, bleep you. Oh, William, you're losing out. No, I'm not. Especially when all the grift goes away, then you're kind of stuck. You know, I may be wrong on that one, but my point is, it's the biggest grift job where the only beneficiaries are the energy companies who pocket the money. So, for example, let me give you the tax credit and production tax credit provides a 26 to 30% cost reduction for solar, wind projects. So when SDG&E pushes and promotes and does all this, they're the ones who benefit, totaling $18 billion annually. That's from the EIA report. Solyndra again, $535 million in loans. Without subsidies, green energy will die. I remember when they opened up energy back in 1995 or around there. I knew this because I did marketing and I was part of the development team to seek sponsors and things like that. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry knew green electricity, grid was up, because something had happened in the law and allowed it. They all were gone within a few years. They weren't able to sustain themselves. So much for green energy. Now, the caveat, there is some market demand exists. There is some truth to it, but at what cost? Because these people who talk about Mother Nature, that you never see them show up at a hearing when we're burning to the ground. And it has. Look up lithium battery fires across the nation. There's no official database. All the information you'll find has been pulled together by civilian activists who don't want them because they know they will kill you, if not today, tomorrow, with all the toxic fumes once it catches on fire. Again, no worries, Senor William. It will not catch on fire. 2 fires later, here where I live at. I was on the board, voted against it one time. Everybody being bought and paid for. Excuse me, sorry. There's an ant there bothering me. It's hot summertime. Ants are in the house. It's a scam. A scam. A damn scam. I don't even talk to the family that does business out here that involved in the community because they're always trying to scam you with this solar, that. Why? Because they want to make a damn buck. God bless them. I don't blame them. That's market capitalism. But stop knocking on my damn door. So subsidies distort the market signals. Why? Because it's not competitive. It's subsidized. It's not self-sustaining. Now, when that happens, I'm the first one to jump on the bandwagon. When I can sit there and take my electric vehicle, I don't have one. I won't get one. But when I can get one, I can drive me 400, 500 miles on one or one tank of gas, then we'll talk. Until then, get the bleep out of here. This bill also opens public lands for drilling and mining, and that's going to project about 7 million jobs, 4.6 to about 5% economic growth. And naysayers don't talk about that. So the spending cuts, what's done and what's coming. This is where I have issues. I do have issues here. But this isn't the bill. This is a reconciliation bill. And it's a reconciliation bill that's done so you can get 51 Senate votes to bypass the Democrat filibuster. And it's critical. Again, in the House, you have 218, 214 houses. Should be higher if not for alleged voter fraud. And yes, in California, when it takes 8 weeks to count all the ballots and you mysteriously win by just enough after knowing how much you're down on election night, where Republicans are always leading election night, things that make you go, So reconciliation was needed to avoid the 60-vote Senate threshold. Again, Democrats would have blocked it. GOP slim majority meant every vote counted. Losing even a few in the House, the Freedom Caucus holdouts could have killed the tax cuts and border funds. Our taxes would have gone up about 30% without this bill, right off the board. Our taxes, they call it revenue. Democrats do. So the rules limit changes to taxes, spending, and debt. That's why you had to do it this way. So deep cuts risk also losing GOP votes, and that was needed for the tax cuts and border security, which were the big primary issues in this. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm telling you how the damn thing works. Get your head out of that Democrat, Green Party, Libertarian, or rhinos tush. It's so far up there, you come 100 yards from your home, your wife's like, get out of here, you stink. So there was no way they were going to get major reforms or like a welfare rehaul. And that's the other thing. Trump said, I'm not touching the entitlement programs. He said this. He campaigned on this. So you idiots out there, whether you're a libertarian who voted for him, whether you're a MAGA who voted for him, whether you're Elon Musk, or you're going to vote for this. Yes, you did, you moron. And I do mean that. You jump on your soapbox as if you're holier than Jesus Christ when you're completely wrong and you know it, but you're willing to lie. You know what that makes you? Judas. So what are some of the cuts achieved? Well, there's $1.2 trillion saved, $930 billion from Medicaid via a 20-hour work week requirements for able-bodied adults, meaning get off your couch, fool. You're going to work or we're going to cut you off. That's not somebody who's life or death with this. And it also unblocks illegal and also blocks illegal aliens. People who don't put into the system shouldn't be getting out from the system. William, they don't. No, they don't. See, here's when they say they give more taxes than no, they don't. The taxes you're talking about are sales taxes, rent, that type of stuff. They don't pay income tax. So the bill bars illegals from Medicaid, ensuring only legal residents. Now, here's an ugly truth. Here's a damn ugly truth. There's a loophole to this. Undocumented parents can still access Medicaid for citizens through anchor babies. That's why this has got to go away, this anchor baby nonsense. I mean, it's in the Constitution. No, it's not. 14th Amendment meant Black Americans, former slaves. We are like the only country, if I'm correct, that does this. Well, William, just because other countries don't do it doesn't mean that's right. No, I'm not saying, or doesn't mean we should do it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying ask, why do other countries do it, you morons? This is another issue that really screws me because it's destruction from within. China ships its women over, pregnant, puts them up in a hotel. They spit out the kid. All the paperwork gets done. That kid's a citizen. The whole family and shebang goes back to China. And now that kid has back and forth access as a communist. He gets educated here on our, goes back. Then eventually he infiltrates. That's how you destroy a nation from within. Wayne, that's kind of like TV movie. It is, but it happens. God, you people. Oh, ¿qué pasa con estos americanos? Y saben limpiar su fundillo y creen que saben todo del mundo. So that loophole should have been closed, and it probably won't be until it gets determined. And what will probably happen is these families will be able to continually the abuse. And once the Supreme Court, if they do what's right, will sit there and say, yes, anchor babies are not citizens. If that was the case, then any embassy or any person here working at their embassy, their kid would be a citizen. So what happens is parents enroll the kids. The kids get all the benefits, so in turn the parents get those benefits. And it's legal. There's also cuts to SNAP and green energy subsidies, as there should be. $330 billion from streamlined student loan repayments. It was such a bureaucratic nightmare, a lot of unnecessary red tape. They're able to save $330 billion. The cuts target waste, ineligible beneficiaries, bloated green programs, but avoids gutting safety nets for the truly needed. I'm not talking about the loan repayments, but just in general, the bill. But the $330 billion is from student loan savings. So that comes from simplifying the student loan repayment plans. I don't want to confuse you there. Waste refers to the inefficiencies in the old system, overcomplicated plans leading to defaults or excessive administrative costs. Kind of the red tape, in essence, what I'm saying. $330 billion. Think about that. So some of the waste targeted, there's multiple repayment plans, pay, repay, ICR, overlapping rules. It's all confusing. I mean, you don't know what those three are. Neither did the people who it would fall under. The only people who knew about it were people who worked on it. Borrowers often missed payments or defaulted, and that cost the government billions in uncollected loans. Before this bill, $150 billion in defaults annually. Annually. The reason it's $350 billion is probably because it probably ends at 2028. Administering these plans also wasted $2 billion a year on bureaucracy, redundant servicing contracts. Now, the people earning from this do not care. They're the real grifters. The civilian companies, the nonprofits, all grifting off these programs. So the single plan cuts these costs by streamlining the process. And I'm dubious because it's government. Safety net protection. Now, the cuts don't reduce benefits for vulnerable groups. They are protected. Disabled borrowers on forgiveness programs. So I was wrong. We are still talking student loans, or elderly with low income plans. How that falls in, I don't know. But they focus on that administrative bloat and defaults by non-paying able borrowers, and it preserves aid for those who need it. So some of the future plans, again, this was a reconciliation bill. All those people, rhinos, Green Party, Democrats, Libertarians, they're lying to you. Oh, they should have cut this, should have cut that. It wasn't the bill for that. Trump had his goals. He said about the goals. He gave it to Congress. It's Congress's responsibility. And if Trump had vetoed this, we'd all be paying 30% more in higher taxes. Think about that. They don't tell you that part. Some of the future plans, now, take it for what it's worth, because we got to hold their feet to the fire. But Trump and Speaker Mike, again, I'm fair, transparent. I'm not saying it's going to happen. This is what they're saying. And we have to hold their feet to the fire to make it happen. Trump and Speaker Mike Johnson pledged a second reconciliation bill. And they're talking about that this fall or in the spring. And some of the holdouts, that's what they promised them. So the holdouts got to be on top of them. Every vote that comes up, nope, ain't going to touch that one. Let's do the reconciliation first. That's where you get strong. Again, targeted bloated programs, excessive SNAP eligibility, redundant federal agencies, green energy handouts. We're saving money by ridding ourselves of those programs. Now, there are flaws. I will grant you that, but they're also Democrat, mainstream media, Green Party, Libertarian Party, and Rhino lies, along with some MAGA lies by Trump, Candace. My God, what the hell happened to Candace? Boy, that is like anti-Semite 101, and Trump and Tucker's getting there too. The guy's lost it. I think he has daddy issues. His dad lived in that world, pushed for all this stuff he's now against. And why do I say that? Because that's what I believe. Oh, wait, you're attacking him personally. Really? He attacked Mark Levin personally. Talked about his sex life. I mean, look at Tucker, a fat little white duck with a C. Come on now. That's right. I said it. I have no qualms in saying the ugly truth like that. So what are some of the unnecessary extras? These are Democrat and some of the flaws. This one isn't, but they claim it is. $50 billion for rural hospitals to offset Medicaid cuts. Now, each state and county, that's where the issues will happen. But isn't it funny how Democrats don't care about the rural people? If this had been in the urban area, 50 billion for urban, they'd be, oh yeah, mama, come on now. How can I grift out that money? Come on, bring it on down. God told me y'all needed a fun urban hospital so I could benefit off that. Obviously, I'm playing off that Baptist minister, or I'm sorry, not Baptist, but that preacher who said, I had a dream. No, not MOK. I had a dream, and it said for the flock to buy me a G7. It's a plain true story. Anyway, I'm really digressing. So $50 billion for rural hospitals offset the Medicaid cuts. It keeps clinics open, but it does bloat the bill. $12.5 billion for air traffic control upgrades. It improves safety, but the Democrats act as, well, that's an airline perk. Why? They don't care how many of y'all die. The upgrades address critical safety issues, outdated FAA systems, causing delays, near misses. Democrats don't care how many die. They just want a talking point. So modernization is essential to prevent accidents. And the reports state that it's not an airline perk. Now, they should be putting into it. But hell, we subsidize those bastards too. The problem is we have an elite caste system. The corporates make out like fat rats and we pay the bill. Where did it blow up on? With that Biden administration. 80% of the upper 10%, the upper 10%, which is 80% of the wealth, they were making out like fat rats, were the lower 10% were making out like fat rats, the upper elites. The rest of us in the 80% were living, working 2 jobs, where the rich were taking vacations to Europe, etc. So yeah, if you want to say it's an airline perk, because these corporate airline executives earn 6 figures, 500, 600, a couple million, 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, on top of their bonuses, yeah, then that's a problem. But Democrats will never say that because those same people donate to them. Same thing with rhinos. All right, so that's the airline. I mean the air traffic control. Then there's a nuclear tax breaks for plants by 2028. It supports energy but risks some corporate favoritism. Again, I'll give you the full story. There's always risks. But AI isn't coming. It's here. And to compete globally and lead the way, energy is desperately needed. And we don't have it. Our grid is being doubled by American grid system is being doubled by China every 6 to 12 months. Or maybe 18 months, every 18 months, let's say. I can't remember the stat. I don't have it here in front of me. So AI's energy demands are massive. Data centers consume 2% of the U.S. electricity, and that's going to double by 2030. This is just data centers. Nuclear power provides reliable, high-capacity energy, and that will support AI and make us globally competitive. Wind and solar sure as hell ain't going to do it. Now, there's corporate favoritism. That's a risk. But whose fault is that? It's our fault. We got to keep our elected officials in check. So don't come to me crying and whining and complaining. I go, well, when's the last time you went to a town hall? When's the last time you actually talked to a politician and talk about this? I'll be honest, it's been a while for me. At least a year. I'm trying to get this business, but I'm involved in the fight. I'm trying to educate you. And when I do see Isa, who actually I'm scheduled to contact here, because my father, we believe, is the first Latino to make E9 in this country. They got some dumb officer. No. My dad made it like 15 years before him, or before he became his highest ranking. My dad was the highest ranking enlisted, E9, 14 years. Unheard of. That's right. You're like, what? If you're serving, you're like, huh? No way. Yeah, 14 years, mother bleepers. Public land drilling. It creates jobs, but they're saying it could favor oil firms. Of course it's going to favor them. They're the ones who do all the drilling. But drilling creates jobs. For example, 500,000 oil gas jobs in 2024. And this is critical because AI will be displacing certain jobs. 30% of white-collar jobs, they say, are at risk by 2030. I'm not sure, but that's what the data says. I don't believe that data, but that's what it says, but we'll find out. We're also uber rich in resources. Now, they should be protected, but they must also be used. We have vast oil and gas reserves, 500 billion barrels. Balancing the use and protection is obviously key. I get that. Now, here's why I don't panic like the average idiot. Conditions put on oil corporations have reaped hundreds of millions of dollars in cleaning up and beautification of our lands and coasts. So in essence, when these people get contracts, you're like, okay, you're going to put this X amount of money into the beautification, into the cleanup of this area over here. We're trying to make America pretty. The whole Gulf of America, the whole Gulf, that has been beautified and cleaned up because of these type of permits. Why? They face environmental regulations. 1.2 billion in cleanup bonds. That was in 2024. And some fund restoration, 200 million for Gulf Coast projects. So you get a nonprofit wants to do something. The oil companies, oh, really? When you present it for a grant, then they go to government. See what I did over there? I gave them that money. So they do help with beautification. I'm not sitting there defending them. I'm just telling you the freaking facts. I'm just sick and tired of these liars who call this, I'm an environmentalist, William. Plastic bags are bad. Now, some of the mainstream media, the TDSers, the Green Party, the rhinos, the libertarians, and the ill-informed, their claims and the truth. The claim, it hurts the poor, it helps the rich, and it slashes safety nets. What's that, Jeeves? The limo's waiting? Okay. It's going to take me to my private plane? Okay, I'll be there in a second. So what's the claim? Tax cuts benefit the wealthy. I'm going to tell you what I wrote down, but let me ask you a question to anybody out there. Anybody. When's the last time a poor person gave you a job? When's the last time a poor person gave anybody a job? The successful, the corporates, somebody who owns 30 franchises and is still technically a small business owner, they're the ones giving you jobs. So if the tax cuts can benefit them to put more money into their organizations for more jobs, etc., higher wages, I'm for that. Now we got to keep their feet to the fire. Got to keep their feet to the fire, because what's happening now, because these corporations are giving so much to the Democrats and the Republican rhinos, is those politicians are allowing loopholes to be created into law where they can put the money right back into the pocket. So tax cuts benefit the wealthy, is what they say. But while 930 billion Medicaid and SNAP cuts harm the poor, they claim, with 17 million losing coverage and reduced income. They say, like a single mom losing kids, doctor visits, or families losing food aid. That's what they're saying. Let me repeat that. Tax cuts benefit the wealthy. 930 billion Medicaid and SNAP cuts harm the poor. 17 million are losing their coverage and reduced income. Here's the truth. The CBO 17 million figure is unreliable. It is more often than not wrong, and the data supports that. Go look it up, people. Look it the bleep up. Because they do static scoring, meaning they take one number from one snapshot in time, or they don't look at, or they ignore like the 7 million new jobs that will come about, and that'll help people stay insured. It's like predicting a flood without checking the forecast. That's what the CBO does. On Trump's tariff, I think it was like 1.7, or his tax cuts, I can't remember, one of the two. It's like 1.67 trillion. They said we go in the red. Well, we're actually in the black 1.7 trillion. They were completely wrong, 180 degrees. They're always wrong. It's like I just roll my eyes when a Democrat uses it because I know they're lying. And then I roll my eyes when a Republican uses it because I'm like, didn't we just sit there and say it didn't work? Why are you using it? Use actual real numbers so you can actually sell the truth instead of lie behind the CBO. The CBO, again, their static model. For example, they overestimated Obama, or they underestimated Obamacare costs by billions. It costs us billions and billions more than what they said it would. They always assume no economic growth. They never realize how they realize that they just don't use the formulas in how tax cuts drive jobs and coverage. Medicaid cuts enforce 20-hour work week requirements, meaning if you're able-bodied, you got to go to work. We're not going to keep paying you Medicaid. It's that simple. Illegals, except for the anchor baby loophole, they shouldn't be taking our benefits. Why? $37 trillion in debt, people. Wake the bleep up. You can't sit there and scream we're in debt and then turn around, God help him. You can't have it both ways. You got to help America first. And then with what's left over, we can help others. It's like that airline, what do they call them? Stewardess. When the mask drops, put it on your face first. Because if you wait to put it on your kid's face, you may pass out and then both of y'all die. Same concept. Then they say snap cuts target, or the snap cuts. Well, snap cuts target fraud. The double dipping benefits, not kids' meal. Oh, on the Medicaid, look at it this way. It's like ensuring only members use the gym. It doesn't hurt moms or anybody else. It helps remove the bloat. Here's what cracks me up. Somebody say, well, William, can you guarantee that? No, you can't guarantee anything except taxes and you'll die. So they're willing to go into $37 trillion more in debt for their feelings. Nothing more than my feelings. But then they'll turn around. We're $37 trillion in debt, William. We can't sit there and pay our service members to live in better housing versus a cramped trailer or double wide. They're hypocrites. Tax cuts help waiters. No tax, no tip tax. Workers, overtime tax-free. Keeping more of your paycheck. The climate change side. Claim cutting green credits, boosting oil gas harms the environment. It's like destroying the forest. No. You want to see destroying the forest? Look at California. They don't do any control burns, and then everything goes up in smoke. They're not saving squat. They're hurting the environment more. It's always a typical leftist climate change activist. The lithium batteries catch on fire. It kills people. Short-term and long-term. Those caught in the fire and years later because of all the toxic fumes. You don't see one damn activist at a board of supervisor meeting or a city council meeting. Are we sure about this? No. They got their head stuck in the sand. Ooh, oh no, oh no, oh. Sucking that activist penis. That's all they do. Green credits fuel flops like Solyndra. They inflate bills with unreliable wind, solar. It's like buying a faulty tool. Think about this. Do y'all know that windmills, how they start up to get them going? No, it's not the wind. It's generators. Yeah, you didn't know that. Maybe you should learn. Did you know they laughed at Trump when we talk about the windmills and the sounds and it hurts whales and kills them? You know, the ones near the coast? True. Oil and gas cuts gas prices. It ensures reliable power. It's like a dependable car. Green energy is like buying a lemon. You hope and pray it starts up and will make the full trip. These aren't up for debate. These are facts. Now, you make all this work without any issues, without any subsidies, Americans will flock to it. But they can't and they won't. And we, the taxpayers, pay the bill for these corporations like Solyndra to get rich off our dime. And Obama's okay with that. Drilling is regulated on public land, not forests. Meaning they say the forest. It's public land and it could be forest. And they're going to do it in a proper way. When these sources of energy, again, I'm repeating myself, are cost effective and produce a profit and actual savings, we're going to flock to them. Market-driven tech, when it does work, we flock to it like LEDs. Remember the energy-efficient light bulbs? Saw 90% adoption by 2025. No heavy subsidies. Green energy lives on subsidies. $18 billion a year for wind, solar, and tax credit. It's only $18 billion, William. Doesn't the fact that you saying it's only $18 billion, William, tell you that our government's overgrown? It's a behemoth. That's grifting. It's only $18 billion a year. What is it with leftists? Every vote counts. Every person counts. What about Lake and Riley? Oh, William, why are you throwing just silly stuff my way? Idiots. Without handouts, these costs are 20 to 50% higher than gas or coal. That's from a study last year, 2025. It props up uncompetitive firms. Solyndra, anyone? There's 10 zillion. I just love pointing this cylinder out because that's when I go, oh, I remember that. Then they say, oh, this is the political stunt. It was rushed for July 4th, hiding the donor giveaways. No, it was politically motivated by Trump to get it done by July 4th. It's the year, the day of our freedom to sign this big, beautiful bill. So, yeah, I'm not going to sit there and argue that. Trump leveraged it for political optics. It's like signing a deal with fanfare, like he did all these executive orders the night he was elected. However, where were you hateful-filled bigots on Biden's Afghanistan exit? Time for 9/11's 20th anniversary. Now, why would he define or align a defeat and withdrawing and the Taliban taking over? Why would he align that with arguably one of the worst days in America's history? I'm sorry, not arguably, but one of the worst days in America's history. Where 13, U.S. soldiers died. Maybe you want to like, hey, 3,000 died here. I got 13 killed. Oh, yeah, I'm Biden. I'm good. That's all I can think of. There was no complaint by the mainstream media. There were no Democrats saying investigation. There was none of that. So go bleep yourself. This is what I'm talking about. Yes, I acknowledge it was optics here, but it also got it done, and it worked. There weren't donor giveaways. There were tax breaks to help the workers, not the elites. They don't talk about that. Another claim, tax cuts serve or starve government, and they add that. They said the tax cuts cut revenue. It adds $3.4 trillion debt. It's like you're stealing government money for roads and schools. It's our money. Tax cuts keep about $1,700 for each family. It's our paycheck, our money. And they're saying because we won't pay higher taxes, that it's a bad bill. Think about that. And CBO is always wrong. They're wrong on Reagan tax cuts, wrong on Trump's tax cuts. They missed the about 5% growth, 4.5% to 5% growth, 7 million jobs. That's why you can't trust the CBO. Democrat and Rhino spending. It drives debt, not our cuts. Tax cuts do not drive the debt. It's spending that drives the debt. Never forget that. Tax cuts do not increase the debt. The spending increases the debt. And they claim it's bloated and wasteful. Pork like the $50 billion hospitals, $12.5 billion FAA, the upgrade, the nuclear breaks. It's a waste of money. It's like handouts. The truth, hospitals save rural clinics like your local ER. The FFA fixes are there to prevent crashes. It's like a safety net. The nuclear ensures cheap power. It's like a reliable generator. Not so, hey, how's that solar doing? Damn, there's no wind. Can't power your house today, bud. So why does this matter? Look, I, William Del Pilar, you're a conservative Latino. I hate extras. It's like overpriced fries. But this bill secured the tax cuts and our borders. Those were the two of the biggest issues that I wanted, and the borders was the number one issue for Americans. The Democratic mainstream media, the Green Party, rhinos, and libertarians are all trying to scare voters for 2026. They're misrepresenting our money as theirs, the Democrats specifically, not the other parties, not the libertarians, not the Green, not the rhinos, the Democrats. That's solely on them. The Green and the libertarians are not in power. They can scream holy hell and sound like Jesus Christ because they don't actually have to make a decision. It's kind of like, I don't have kids, but let me tell you how to raise your kids mentality. The rhinos, they're just I wish we could vote them all out. So the debt's a concern. Everybody knows that. But Trump doesn't care because like every other politician, he's going to be out of office soon. And that does bother me about him. It's a flaw. Government spending by both parties is what the real issue here is. Cuts are not the issue in terms of tax cuts. So what about Thomas Massey and Rand Paul? Well, Thomas Massey and Rand Paul voted no, citing debt spending. Massey opposed the bill's framework. Paul bashed the debt ceiling. Why they're not idiots, but why they're lying to you? Well, they're principals who stand on so-called values, but in essence, they're grifting. Big John, my partner, talks about Cash Patel. I don't like how he grifts and has his merchandise, his website, and he has this job. I don't care. They all do it, and it's not illegal. I may not like it, but that's a non-starter for me. But certain people will mention it because they ain't got nothing else. But you want to see a real grift? Not delivering for your constituents, then lying and saying you're delivering by holding up their values and his values, as every other district is getting theirs, but not the districts they actually live in or the state. This was confirmed. Kentucky's 4th district missed out on the rural hospital funds, which is vital for clinics like St. Elizabeth Healthcare, serving 80,000 patients yearly. Now locals are going to face longer drives for care. The $10 billion farm aid for Kentucky's tobacco and livestock farmers. The $5 billion for infrastructure, the Brent Spence Bridge upgrades. That's critical for local commerce. Paul, hospital funds impacted facilities like the UK Healthcare in Lexington. The Border Patrol jobs, $6 billion, which could have employed hundreds in Kentucky. Yes, for processing and things like that. Energy tax breaks for coal, oil, hurting local energy workers. Democrats and mainstream media lies are there to scare voters for the 2026 midterms. They misrepresent your money as the government's and ignore the bill's economic benefits. 7 million jobs. That's a concern, yes. Government spending by both parties, yes. Trump's promised a second bill. So all that is a concern, and I'm repeating myself, but it's important. But then we need more people like Chip Roy. Unlike Massey and Paul, he shares your fiscal concerns, but he negotiates wins for his Texas district, including $6 billion Border Patrol jobs, $10 billion in farm aid. All the while, he keeps pushing to conservatize bills with amendments for spending restraints. He's trying. It's not perfect, but he's able to balance his beliefs with the founder's collaborative approach. And it shows you how you can stay principled and deliver results. But I admit, it can be abused. Senator Lisa Murkowski, just a loser in life, an elitist swine. She's a no vote until she secured everything she wanted for her side. So people do abuse it. She got a 2-year exemption from cost sharing for high error rates like Alaska, meaning they can keep cheating, lying, and stealing, and they won't be penalized. It's a 25% SNAP error rate. They won't be penalized. So other states have to face it. Her state gets away with it. It's costing taxpayers $300 million a year for 5 years. Shrewd, I guess you could say. But it shows how she bends the knee and screws Americans over. But in a way, I can't blame her. And that's on Republicans for electing her. And she won through shenanigans. She was no voter fraud, but just shenanigans, unethical ways. I loathe that woman. She comes from a political family. They don't care about you. They never have. All they would care about you is to come in and wipe their tush, and that's it. That's all they want you to do, wipe their tush. So what about Elon Musk? Well, Elon Musk isn't a moron. He's a brilliant man, but he's a moron in this. Yes, it is pork filled in many ways, Elon, but you're wrong because you don't understand politics. Look, I was all over Elon, supporting him and all that, but I also said you got to keep an eye on him because a billionaire, I go, he's one of the worst. We can turn you white. I said from day one, he made billions off subsidies, and he knows it. They always talk about that one subsidy where he paid early, but others he hasn't. He's profited off them, used us. But that said, he's an outsider. He expects instant fiscal purity. I mean, he lied. We're going to say trillions on Doge, 126 billion, which is a lot, but he lied. He ignores the need for compromise to pass these bills. It's a divided Congress. Slim GOP majority, 218 in the House to 214 Democrats, 51 to 50 in the Senate. He blames Trump for extras like the $50 billion hospital fund. Congress, not the president, Elon, negotiates pork to secure votes. It's their job to craft bills. Now, why is Elon doing all this in America? Why doesn't he go to South Africa? Rebuild his country. Because he can steal and ply his way through, steal is a strong word. He can ply his way through subsidies through America by buying off lobbyists or buying off politicians through his lobbying. So he's no saint. I just call it as it is. Elon's done a lot, especially X. I don't know if Trump wins without X, but Elon did not win it for Trump. Elon did not have a message. It was Trump's message. Elon, when he went on his own in Wisconsin for the Supreme Court race up there, he got trounced. Put 25 million in there. He doesn't understand politics. Critics who scapegoat Trump, they lack the basic civics knowledge. They choose to act pious for social media clout, followers, and clickbait. All the while pretending their principles are flawless, like unicorn farts, while ignoring the truth. Truths I share by telling you the good and bad to help you understand. Because I don't know this. I go and research it myself, then I double check it, triple check it at times. I try to share how the system actually works. So my conclusion to all this bill wins because it delivers tax cuts, $1,700 a year annually for family, creates border control, 1 million deportations a year, defense, $25 billion for the missile shield, jobs, 7 million jobs. It sets Trump up for the 2026 midterms. 60% of voters no tax cuts, despite the Democratic spin. And that number will increase as the economy gets better. They've promised a second bill. We have to hold their feet to the fire. You're damn right. I'm going to contact Daryl Issa, my congressman. You're damn right. To cut the bloat. Democrats, mainstream media, rhinos, Rand Paul, and purist voters. Purist voters being libertarians, green. They block progress over single issues. And then they lie to you about that single issue because they don't tell you the full truth. I just went through that last week. They act like holier than thou people. They claim to protect the poor or save the planet, but they live hypocritically with a willingness to tax us to death. And then instead of calling them taxes, they claim our taxes as revenue and use that term to demagogue us when we want to keep our own hard-earned dollars. Democrats I'm speaking about there. Nobody else. And they also live lavishly off our tax dollars. And then they use those same dollars to reward their crony allies. Greens cry environment, but fly private jets. Libertarians like Paul, they moan about the deficits. Massey, they cry and whine. And again, on Massey, like a couple of weeks after his poor wife died, rest in peace, he's looking all spiffy, looking much younger, contacts and all. I'm like, dude, aren't you going to mourn your wife? Oh my God. At least mourn her. Pretend you're mourning her. William, how dare you be critical and personalize it? No, this man attacked somebody who had a poll which showed that his support isn't as strong as it is. He personally attacked the guy's looks. So F off. So back to my point. They also live lavishly on our tax dollars and use those same dollars to reward their crony allies. Don't forget Solyndra, $535 million loan they never paid back, and they collapsed 2 years later after their executors probably pocketed a lot of that. The lavish projects. 2024, nearly $2 billion in earmarks. I tell you. And that's the big, beautiful bill. And that's my take on it. Those are the ugly truth and the positive truth. All right, let's keep moving, my friends. Obama-era intelligence scandal. This is, what did I call this? Hot takes. Yeah, this is our hot takes, hot off the wire hot takes. So the Obama-era intelligence scandal, allegations of conspiracy against Trump. So there was a CIA report from July 2025 that critiqued the 2017 intelligence assessment on Russian interference in the 2016 election. In the short, they said Russia was helping Trump win. Well, it turns out that John Brennan, the former CIA director, pushed that lie specifically to include the Steele dossier, which turned out to be a false report, despite internal objections. And we can't use that, boss. I'm the CIA director. Yes, you will. Durham, in his 2023 investigation, came to the same conclusion. The Steele dossier was funded by the Clinton campaign for one reason, to shape public perception of Trump collusion. That was in the book Shattered before all this started. Nobody bothered to look at a journalist who wrote a book and said what they were going to do. A 2021 study from the Journal of Intelligence Analysis found that only 7% of the allegations were substantiated. There was no Russian interference, and it was nothing but clear political bias. This was Obama, Comey, Clapper, and Brennan deciding we're going to screw Trump. John Ratcliffe, CIA director. There are also declassified documents in 2023 that exposed the 2017 knowledge of all this by the CIA. Think about that. So what's the fallout? It's revealing to uncover this misconduct. But what are we going to do about it? How are these people going to be punished? They should go to jail. Trump faced false impeachment. They changed laws to try to find him guilty and send him to jail. But these Democrats, why do Democrats from the president on down always escape accountability? At what point do we hold them responsible? Moving on. CBS settlement with Trump. Journalistic integrity under fire. Deceptive editing. So this settlement from CBS 60 Minutes is from a $20 billion lawsuit Trump filed against CBS for literally election interference. And the proof was the video. All you had to do was watch the video. The claim is also supported by a 2023 study that found the Journal of Media Ethics showed 68% of journalists admitted to selective editing to shape a narrative. In other words, they're willing to lie so you believe what they want you to believe, not what is actually out there. It's a clear bias to create false narratives. But most of them view it as normal and within their journalistic rights. As journalists, we can't afford to be objective, one journalist was quoted as saying not long ago. So what they're doing is they're accepting yellow journalism through the prism of the greater good. Now, the CBS News staff, 60 Minutes, they're concerned about reputational damage. Well, they should be, but that's because they got caught. They're concerned about the payout damaging them. No, the lie is what's going, or it's what's causing the damage. It's not just them, ABC News and Meta. Meta's not talked about a lot, but they agreed to pay President Trump $25 million to settle a 2021 federal lawsuit alleging First Amendment violations and impermissible censorship because they suspended him from Facebook and Instagram after the January 6th fake riots. Now, there's some truth to it. Paramount decision to settle aligns with the pattern of corporate media capitulation. Again, ABC News and Disney paying $15 million to Trump because Stephanopoulos blatantly lied. It was a legal lie. He lied. All these people saying, "Oh, what he said was true." No, it's not true. He lied. He lied, and that's why they paid out, because they knew if they went to court, they were screwed. When people are taken to court, they tend to settle out. The last name was Young. CNN settled out. Because afterwards, some of the jury were talking, we're looking at $100 million settlement. It's not more. Paramount's trying to merge, so it was in their better interest. But the reason they settled out was because it was clear-cut election interference. The truth is, the longer it dragged out and went to court, combined with public settlement, that was risky for CBS. They did not want to take the accusation and lose. Now, why was this true? Well, simple. They took Kamala's word salad and cut it to make it sound presidential, where she sounded very positive. Israel, Israel bad. My donor's good. Two, Bob, Israel should sit there and look at the scenario and what they're doing and all the deaths they're causing, and they should know that we will make sure that Israel has to answer for all the transgressions they've done. I mean, it's a lie, but she was sounding much more presidential, talking that way. And they changed it for the latter versus the former. Why? They wanted us to perceive her as presidential to vote for her. That's the bottom line. Then I can't resist. Dan Rather had to jump in. He criticized the settlement, forgetting his own history. He was fired. Now, they'll sit there, no, he wasn't really fired. This happened, that happened. The bottom line is they fired him in a way to save face. But he intentionally used falsified documents in a 2004 60 Minutes report to undermine George W. Bush. And that severely damaged his credibility and 60 Minutes and CBS. And it validates those who accuse 60 Minutes of creating false narratives and outright lying. Imagine this coming back up in court. That would have sunk them. Well, damn, Bob, they did it. They did it before. Let's move on. Activist courts try again and fail. Department of Education versus the U.S. Department of Home. Oh, no, that's not it. I wrote that wrong. But the activist courts, they do try again. So before I go on, next week, I'm going to have a Rhodes Scholar who's not only a venture capitalist, but a constitutional lawyer, specifically speaking on the court's activism. I'm doing this because I wasn't happy last week because I had to hold back for a variety of reasons. But at a segment we had that stated the courts are exerting their powers, but they're not being activists. And instead, the excuse was they're simply pushing back against executive overreach. Well, it's not the court's job to keep the executive in check, but to interpret disputes based on the Constitution and laws. Period. End of story. That's your job. It's Congress's job to keep the president in check. And presidents, yes, are expanding their power because Congress lets them. It's not the court's job to do Congress's job. It's that simple. And that's what Democrats want the courts to do. Democrats have a three-pronged attack: elections, then agencies like the EPA, FEC, FTC, HHS, all those agencies that push and promote their ideological beliefs. And the third prong is the courts to allow it to happen when a new president comes in to stop it. And in fact, in a scathing rebuke to Ketanji Brown Jackson, I don't know what a woman is. That woman, that idiot. Amy Coney Barrett rebuked her because she wants more activist judges. The only answer to this is stop electing feeble-minded politicians who only care about re-election and or put in term limits. Okay, so let's get back to this case. Activism in the courts again. So this case involved a legal fight over deporting immigrants to South Sudan. It started with a Massachusetts judge blocking it in May 2025 when the Trump administration wanted to deport them. And it moved through SCOTUS with interventions, and it ended with the judge's compliance finally. Let's go through it now. So the case's journey began in Massachusetts. Judge Brian Murphy issued a temporary restraining order in May of 2025 to stop deportations to South Sudan without notice or hearings. Now, the case went to Supreme Court, and they paused Murphy's order not once but twice, saying no, deportations can't go on. So on July 3rd, during the holiday, lawyers filed a new habeas case in Washington, seeking another block. And on July 4th, D.C. Judge Moss held a holiday hearing, transferred it back to Massachusetts with a short delay, hoping they would not deport them. And Judge Murphy finally relented and denied the block. Why? Well, I think it's what Shipwreck Crew. He's 22 years. This guy served as a federal prosecutor, represented 91 January 6 clients. He commented on this. And he says it was a weak effort. Lawyers used the Eighth Amendment claim about cruel punishment, weak, and it was a delay tactic. And he criticized the holiday hearing as unnecessary, and he thought the Department of Justice had a right to seek sanctions, think fines, things of that nature, against the lawyers because of a 1991 SCOTUS case that supports penalties for bad faith actions. It was just done to delay. They did it on a holiday, knowing everything slowed down. They could speed it up, delay the deportations, going against what SCOTUS has said, and get away with it. This is judicial activism. Judge Murphy acted as an activist judge, resisting SCOTUS with extra hearings, especially on a holiday. He was hoping to block the deportations. Now, with all this in play, and the repeated overrides and potential sanctions somebody probably told him about, he likely backed down and followed the law. Why? To protect his position. Activist judges are coming under the microscope, and deservedly so. But that was another case of this holiday hearing, this delay tactic, and the judges going for it, hoping to delay it. Activist judges. Again, next week we'll have a constitutional lawyer to talk about this. Microsoft's H-1B controversy, layoffs, visa abuse, and industry shifts. So there's a hiring discrepancy. Microsoft requested 14,200 H-1B visas in the second quarter of 2025. Despite this, they laid off 9,000 employees globally. These layoffs included cancellations of gaming projects like Perfect Dark and Everwild. Perfect Dark is such an overrated game. It had a great run in the early 90s before technology advanced. It's just the last iteration just bombed. And it's been like 7 years development hell. So this pattern challenges the claim that AI automation is the main reason for job cuts. No, AI automation is not the main reason if you're asking for 14,200 visas, H-1B visas. Now, the Department of Labor data shows Microsoft's heavy reliance on H-1B workers. Why? It's cheap labor. The United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, their 2025 data further clarifies that. And most of these jobs are entry level. It's entry level abuse across all industries. Nearly 45% of H-1B visas last year that were approved were for entry level or mid-tier roles, not the hard to find job roles where they go, we don't have enough qualified people. We got to bring people from foreign countries in or from the outside in. 45% did not fall into that criteria. They pay 36% below median wages, and that's per the Economic Policy Institute. So it's an exploitation of cheap labor. The EPI and USCIS LCA data confirms that. A lot of acronyms, I know. Just know their official data. And this echoes what Disney did in 2014, where U.S. workers trained their H-1B replacements. Microsoft learned the hard way because they lost the browser war to Chrome because they had no lobbying and they had no political help when they were used and abused and were forced to put other browsers on their computer. Specific, so since then they now have like nearly an $18 million lobbying firm from 2023 to 2025, $18 million, 5 H-1B requests per net job. For every net job, there's 5 H-1B requests for it. This is amongst 85,000 tech layoffs in 2022. They're just cutting the workforce for cheaper labor. This is corporate cronyism. They have higher profits. Their executives earn tens of millions in bonuses. They're earning 15, 20, 30 million a year at the expense of the working class. There's got to be balance. And politicians, Microsoft 17.5 million lobbying and 6 million in campaign contributions. They bought off the politicians. This is bipartisan. This is bipartisan. Politicians don't care. That's why there's political inaction. Think about that. In other words, politicians are bought off to support the firing and replacement of American workers over cheaper foreign labor. There you have it, my friends. That is tonight's show. I went into it hard and dirty because there was a lot to cover. The big, beautiful bill delivers for conservatives, but Democrats, media, and rhino hypocrites acting holier than thou, they lie to block progress, taxing us to death while pocketing our tax dollars themselves in many ways. I say it's time to back Trump's next bill to curb government spending, hold his feet to the fire, and reject the current nonsense we're hearing. And use this bill and the economy as it improves to secure GOP midterm sweep. Because it can't happen in 2026. I mean, we have proved doubters wrong here on Fired Up, from the tariffs, the energy prices, the workforce jobs. And I look forward to this bill doing the same. And I'm going to explain down the road as it happens. Before I go, my friends, don't forget to bookmark grumblingsmedia.com. Grumblingsmedia.com, bookmark it, where you can find my Fired Up podcast. This one talks about national issues. Fired Up California talks about all things California. The Red, White, and Rude and Points on the Board, where I talk sports and cultural events under the guise of how politics affects them. I'll give you the whole shebang. And do not forget to follow us on YouTube, Rumble, Apple, Spotify under the handle Grumblings Media. Until next week, I am William Del Pilar, and this has been Fired Up, your source for conservative talk.
Hey everybody, this is Big John from Grumblings Media, and I just want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our efforts here at Grumblings Media, just smash the subscribe button right here, totally free, or just go ahead and consume more of our great content. Click either one of these two boxes.